Hello, just making sure I am live right now, that you can see me. Gonna check. Oh, I am live. Oh, this is so cool. I'll just wait for everyone to get on and I will call Rona. She likes to be part of this, but she doesn't have a computer, so I actually call her in Canada. Okay, so I am so grateful that you're here. My name is Michelle Hart, and I am a detox specialist, and I'm here to talk all about thyroid. And so today what you're going to learn is a number of things. First of all, if you have a thyroid issue, and second of all, how we're going to heal actually from it. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start with sharing my screen and getting started. Okay. Good. Okay, so those of you that have been watching my training programs know that I'm giving you certain sections of the Slim, Strong, and Sexy Forever program that I put together. And this is all about how you could drop those extra pounds and keep it off for life without starving, without depriving, or giving up your favorite foods or wine. And so we've been talking a lot about, what's actually causing this metabolic imbalance, what's causing all this extra weight. Why are we carrying this extra weight? And so when we're going to be kind of diving into that, we're going to actually want to make sure that we assess, we actually look to see why you can't, not what your neighbor can't, but why you can't. And so the other training sessions that I've done in the past have been self-identifying reasons why you are having a hard time losing the weight and keeping it off. So if you look at my previous training programs, we've actually talked about digestion being the one of the culprits to, like, a poor digestion being one of the culprits to not being able to drop the extra weight and leave it off. We talked about leptin resistance, which is a hormone that is responsible for dictating all the other hormones in the network. So we want to make sure that leptin is working properly. You're going to learn a little bit more about that today. We talked about candida and how that could be a culprit. We talked about food allergies and how if you're eating foods that are not compatible to your body, then that is also going to contribute to extra weight gain. So we identified what those were. We talked about the adrenals and how stress plays a part in weight gain. And we actually talked about quite a few of these. They are in the guides book in the Fit and Healthy community. So if you look under guides, all the training is there. So I highly recommend you look back and watch the training on those so that you can actually identify for yourself, why are you not able to lose weight and keep it off for life? Today is going to be really cool. We're actually going to dive into thyroid and why this is one of the glands that is responsible for our metabolism. And we want to make sure that we are have a good functioning thyroid. And at the end of it, if you want to ask some questions, please feel free to do that. So I'm going to stop this share and I'm going to go right into the training right now. Okay, one moment. Go here. All right, so we are into the training program. Let me get back to the front here. Okay. So today, what we're going to learn is the following. First of all, we're actually going to test. We're going to do a self-test to see how your thyroid is actually doing, and if it is underfunctioning, and to what degree it's underfunctioning. So we're going to have a lot of fun with this questionnaire. So make sure that you take the time to get your notepad and your pen, and we're going to actually score yourself. Second thing we're going to do then is we're actually going to dive into what really is an underactive thyroid. What does that actually mean? And then we're going to get into some implications if nothing is done to heal it. So this is really important because this may spearhead your new journey into healing yourself by learning, if you don't, what happens. Really, it's good information. Then we're going to look at some primary contributors to why it's underfunctioning. We're going to look at some proper testing, which is above and beyond this self-test. and also some solutions. Of course, that's what you're here for, are some 8 simple solutions. Some of them will be supplement. A lot of them will be diet and lifestyle. And then we also want to know, like, how does it feel when it's healed? What does that look like in your body? What does it feel like in the body? So that's actually really important as well. So now we're going to start with the questionnaire. So again, get your notepad and pen. And what we're going to do is I'm going to walk you through each sign or symptom. And what you're going to want to do is, if the sign or symptom that I'm going to express is true for you, if that's actually happening in your body, you're going to want to put a 1. You're going to score yourself a 1 if it's mild or sometimes. You'll score yourself a 2 if it's moderate or it's often. And then you'll score yourself a number 3, if it's like all the time or severe. Okay. And if it doesn't apply, just leave it blank. Then at the end of this, we're going to total the score, and we're going to see if it is above the threshold. And if it is, then we know that we have underactive thyroid, and then we're going to go ahead from there to help heal it. Okay, starting today. So the first sign or symptom that is associated with underactive thyroid is if your muscles are stiff in the morning and they really need to limber up. So it takes you a while to get going. If you fail to feel rested even after sleeping long hours, so you had a long sleep, wake up, and you're still not rested. If you feel like creaky in the joints after sitting for some time. If your heart seems to miss a beat, or it like gets that flip-flop, like it's done its own backflip. If you feel nauseated in the morning. If in the morning you start slow and you finally gain speed later in the afternoon. If you have motion sickness when you're traveling. If you feel dizzy in the morning, or when you move up and down suddenly. Like in the shower, that happens to me when I wash my hair sometimes. Interesting. Cold hands or feet. If you are sensitive to the cold and you prefer warm climates. If your hair is really dry and brittle, if it's dull, if it's lifeless. If you have hair loss from the outer third of your eyebrow. You're losing your hair there. May have to look in the mirror for that one, but maybe you do that later. Flaky, dry, rough skin. If you have sleep disturbances, so your sleeplessness, you have that often or sometimes. I guess sometimes would be a 1, moderate would be a 2, and severe would be a 3. If you are forgetful and you have poor short-term memory. If you have a poor response to exercising, so you exercise but you're not getting any results, you're still flabby, you're not losing weight, you're not getting tight, like your muscles aren't getting tight. If you have low blood sugar, so hypoglycemia, a sugar crash. If you have high cholesterol, or even those cholesterol deposits on the eyelids, I don't know if you've seen them, but I've seen them on people. If you are constipated, if you have less than 1 bowel movement a day, means you're constipated. If you are emotional, or you just like, you cry at the drop of a dime. If you dislike working under pressure or being watched. If you have diminished sex drive or your libido's gone down the tubes. Or if you lack sexual desire. If you have yellowish tint to your skin, especially on your hands or your feet. I've definitely seen that. So it's, yeah, yellow. It's almost like you touched some rust or something. If you have cracks on the bottom of your hands, bottom of your feet, and on your hands. Yeah, there's a lot of signs and symptoms, aren't there? The reason is that I'll get to the rest, but it's so responsible for so many functions in the body. That's why there's a number of them here, okay? So hang on tight. We're almost done. Clogged sinuses, so you can't breathe through your nose. If you have a low heart rate, if you have a low body temperature, especially at bed, cold. If you always get infections, just reoccurring infections, bladder infections, urinary tract infections, upper respiratory infections, yeast infections. If you're depressed, if you have or get headaches, if you have puffiness around the face, your face looks bloated or your eyes look bloated, a lot of puffiness. If your hands or your ankles swell, if you are like irritable, you have these wild mood swings. If you react to foods that you shouldn't be reacting to. So these are food sensitivities or food allergies. If you have a number of them, like multiple. And if you're a female, you have cystic breasts or lumps in your breasts. And again, if you're female, if you have menstrual irregularities or you get PMS or you have excessive menstrual flow. Okay, so that's the end of the question. So what I'm going to have you do is take a minute and I want you to total the number that you've indicated for each of these. And I'll give you some time for that. I need to have some music. I'll do that next time. Yeah, I will. That'd be fun. Give you about 10 more seconds. All right. So you've totaled them up. We've gone through the signs and symptoms. And if your total is 14 or higher, then you likely have underactive thyroid, even if you are on medication. And if you still have high numbers, then we haven't fixed the problem. And we need to look at how we're going to do that. Okay? Because you're still suffering. Your body is still suffering from this. All right. And we want to look and feel good. So let's look at what even is hypothyroidism. So let's think about this. Where is the thyroid? Well, it's right in your throat. And it's actually a butterfly-shaped gland that is pinkish. And it's right in your neck. Okay. It's right above the voice box. And it's responsible for every single metabolic function in the body. And so you notice that there were a lot of signs and symptoms there. Yeah, because it's responsible for carrying you through all those to be normal. And so if we see really high numbers, that means that the thyroid is actually suffering. It's not functioning that well. And that means the whole body isn't functioning well. And so we're going to dive into the more specifics on this. But really, we want to really pay attention to this. Now, one thing that isn't talked about enough when it comes to thyroid is it turns out that likely it may not even be just the thyroid. It may be other factors in the body that's driving down the thyroid. One of the most important areas to look at is leptin, the hormone leptin. And so there's not enough talk about leptin and how that actually dictates how the thyroid can function well or not. Okay, because the leptin talks to the thyroid. And if the leptin is under functioning, then so will be the thyroid. So if you just fix the thyroid with medication, but you haven't looked upstream to leptin, you will get disappointing results. I hope this really hits home to you. And we're going to talk a little bit more about what leptin is. And in the training I've done in the past, please look at the guide section. You will actually test to see if leptin is the problem. Because if it is, right there, you've got your solution. Because you've got to fix leptin before and while you're working on thyroid. You've got to really look at leptin, okay? So this is commonly the driving force behind low thyroid. Okay, so what happens is that leptin becomes dysregulated, the hormone, and then later down the road, pituitary becomes dysregulated, and then later down the road comes the thyroid and then the growth hormone. So that's kind of the order of operations, all right? What I'm trying to hit home with you right now is it's likely not just thyroid. So if we're just looking myopically at thyroid, you will get disappointing results. That's an overarching message right now, okay? And so if this happens, then you're actually going to be gaining weight as time goes on. You're going to look a lot older and you'll be very tired. So this is really, really important to pay attention to now, okay? You may think you feel okay, but really when you start to get better, you'll look back and go, wow, I thought I looked okay or felt okay. There's a healthy body waiting for you, okay? So basically what we're going to do is we're going to look at what happens actually if you don't take care of this and you just sail along the way you're doing now. Here's what happens. You will gain weight and it will be very, very hard to lose. And even if you go on the most strictest eating plan, first of all, who wants to live like that? And second of all, you're still going to get disappointing results, okay? Because the metabolism will just slowly go lower and lower and lower, and there'll be a time you won't even be able to eat very much food and not gain weight. So we don't want to get to that point, but that's actually where it leads to if we don't take care of this as soon as possible. So the other issue is if we don't take care of the thyroid and really get it working again, is if you are menstruating, your menstrual cycle will become more disturbed. The PMS will likely become more severe. And if you're bleeding profusely and you're having a menstrual cycle, that could become more excessive. And what does that mean? That means you go to the doctor's office and they put you on more medication or they do some surgery, but you're not really fixing the root cause, which is why is the thyroid underfunctioning? Because if you don't fix that, there'll be other things coming down the road that you're not going to like very much. And those are things like cancer, okay? So this is, again, really, really important to look at. If you see blood clots and you're menstruating women, that is also a sign of a thyroid that really needs support. So thyroid evaluation. It is beyond the scope of this program, but we want to make sure that when you are testing, that you're actually doing a full panel. And I'm going to get into this a little bit later, but we don't want to just test TSH. That does not tell you enough at all. That actually will put you in the wrong direction. So I'm going to get into that later. But right now, what I'm going to talk about is what is causing this underactive thyroid. We looked a little bit at leptin, which I'll dive into a little bit more, but there are 5 primary contributors to a low thyroid. Well, the first one is we're toxic. And again, there's not enough conversation about the amount of toxicity that is sitting in our bodies. And it's becoming lodged deeper and deeper and deeper, causing more issues. And later down the road, again, if we don't take care of this, then it becomes worse and you will not feel like yourself, okay? And I've worked with this a lot. So make sure that also be mindful of we are toxic and we're actually now born toxic. In fact, babies are born with 258 chemicals in their bodies when they're first born, okay? So we are born toxic because of the environment and all the things that are going on. But if we don't regularly do a proper detox, then you're just flooding the body with more waste products and things really start to slow down. One of them would be thyroid. So I do give a handout and it's the sources of toxicity. Where are they all coming from? Because really we can do a detox, but we also don't want to put the toxins back in. And these are toxins that you may not be aware of that you're putting into your body. Things you're putting on your skin, things you're eating, things you're breathing in, things you're touching, all these things. Like if we can eliminate as many as we can and do a detox, you are way off to the races. In fact, you are going to look and feel 10 years younger just by doing that. And I have a handout, so if anyone wants that, then please reach out to me. But all of my clients have this in their support tools found under the document section in their healthy dashboard. And if you're not a client, let me know when we can just have a conversation about this. Okay, so we talked about toxicity as one of the primary contributors to underactive thyroid. Now let's look at the second one. Well, did you know that iodine and selenium deficiency is also linked to an underactive thyroid? This is especially important if your labs show that your thyroid is normal, but yet you don't feel normal and the scores are really, really high in the test, the questionnaire we just did. It's likely because you're not getting enough iodine and selenium in your body. So whether it be supplements or food sources, which we'll get to, your body likely needs more of that, okay? So the third culprit to underactive thyroid is actually stress or illness. And the reason for that is this. The thyroid has two functions. The first one is it puts you in production mode, like high performance, or even just getting through your day with good amount of energy, right? Get up and go, do your thing. It also has the other function, which is conservation. Conservation happens anytime you're under stress or prolonged stress, and anytime you have an illness. And the reason for that is because the body needs to slow down. It's got to slow down if you have chronic stress, because it's basically saying, please, like, rest so that I can recuperate. Or if you have an illness, it doesn't want you to get up and have a high performance state. It's asking you to slow down for a reason so it could heal. What happens is if you have an illness and you have too much stress, what happens is sometimes the thyroid goes in conservation mode and it stays there. It doesn't flip back into production mode. So you're always in conservation. That's why all those symptoms are so high in the questionnaire, because everything is slowed down. It hasn't kicked back into gear again. Okay. There's ways to do that, but really that's kind of what's going on. And this is where detoxification can really fit in really nicely. Because what happens is if you're ill or you have chronic stress, you're not detoxifying. And if you're ill, your body needs to get rid of the waste products so it can actually reset with healthy cells. And so that's why detoxification is so critical to get your thyroid back. The others are antimicrobials. So sometimes what happens is if you're ill, we already know your immune system is in your gut. And so we want to make sure that we can carefully knock off the pathogenic organisms to make room for the healthy organisms so that your immune system becomes more optimal so that you can heal from your illness, and then thyroid function becomes normal again. It becomes into production mode. Your nutrition plan is important because, again, we want to make sure that we are we have more high performance days, we have more production, but it's got to get the right nutrition for that. And if it doesn't, it will stay in conservation mode, okay? And your lifestyle plays a part, all right? The type of exercise you do is actually really important. So the fourth contributing factor to underactive thyroid is the adrenals. So the adrenals are the glands that actually get activated anytime you're under stress. And I talked about this in the last training I did last week. So if you didn't see that, make sure you look under the guides section under stress. There'll be a word stress, and you can watch the training on the adrenals and how stress leads to weight gain, okay? But today, if your adrenals are under functioning, so will likely your thyroid. So it's not just the thyroid, it could also be the adrenals. We're going to differentiate between thyroid and adrenal, if it's one or the other or both, later in this training, which is really cool. So then you know what to do. But right now, I'm just saying that if you have a thyroid issue, you may also have a stress issue, okay? Then the last contributing factor to an underactive thyroid is leptin resistance. I did touch upon this earlier. The reason for that is because leptin does talk to the thyroid. So if leptin isn't working, thyroid can't work, but we have to look to see if leptin's working. What is leptin? Leptin is a hormone that's released by your white fat cells, and it enters the hypothalamus into your brain. It tells your brain that you're satiated, that you're fine, you're full, you're good to go. But if that system becomes broken, you're eating at the wrong time. You don't know when you're hungry or full. How possibly can you be healthy if you're eating at the wrong time? You won't. You're flooding your body with foods it doesn't need at the time, or you're not feeding your body when it needs to. That is a critical piece. And that will lead to a thyroid issue, okay? So this likely you have not heard before, and if you have, we really need to pay attention to this, okay? Again, I'm here for help. I work with this over 21 years, so I'm happy to help you as well. Okay, so we talked about the 5 contributing factors to underactive thyroid. Now what we're going to do is we're going to get a little bit into some testing. I did mention earlier that if you're going to go to the doctor and they're going to test your thyroid, make sure your panel doesn't just show TSH as a marker for testing. No, we need T4, T3, reverse T3, reverse T4. We need antibodies. So if you have an autoimmune condition, we must test the antibodies. We must TPO. We must be testing these. We want to see what level you're at. And then once you start on a program, we actually retest again to make sure that the levels are going down so that the body is showing that it's healing. Okay. It's you're basically going to get your body back if you can do things like this. You got to do the right things at the right time. So again, not just TSH on your lab. You want to make sure you get a full panel. And again, I have a list that I give to my clients. It's blood test recommended. It gives all the markers that are needed so that we have a clear picture on what to do. All right. So I'm happy to supply that to anyone as well. You can do an at-home test as well. It's called a basal temperature test, okay? And it's a self-test that you can do right at home. So all you need is to get a thermometer and place it by your bedside, and then you're going to want to pick 5 to 10 days and test your auxiliary temperature first thing in the morning before you get out of bed for 5 to 10 consecutive mornings. And the reason for that is because the thyroid is responsible for your body temperature. So if we're seeing that the temperature is low for 5 to 10 consecutive mornings, then we know that the thyroid is under functioning, and it tells you to the degree that it is. But what happens is if you see fluctuations in the temperature, high, low, that means there's an adrenal component to the thyroid. So that's where you want to also make sure you're supporting the adrenals while you're supporting the thyroid. That way you're going to get results. Otherwise, you'll be spinning your wheels time and time again. And I have a list here of the right temperature that the body requires for full functioning. And I'm happy to supply that with anyone is looking for that information. But just so you know, if you do the test and you look at that, you'll be able to see, is it adrenal? Is it thyroid? Is it both? You get a better idea. So now that we've talked about some testing, now we're going to get into the final part, which is the simple solutions to finally improving this thyroid. Okay. Hopefully you've enjoyed the conversation so far and the sharing that I've done on this information that maybe you haven't heard before. Maybe you have. Maybe I'm reminding you of some things, but really it's action steps that make a difference and being consistent. So let's talk about some simple solutions right now so that we can start improving your thyroid. Okay. The first one is you've really got to eat properly because every single meal is either going to support the thyroid or not. And if you're underactive, you want to really do as much as you can to help support the thyroid. And that does require proper eating. And in a way, which you're going to learn a little bit about today, but really if you're looking for an eating plan that will actually help to heal the thyroid, that's exactly what I can help you with. Okay. So we're going to get into some of the key components of an eating plan that will help heal the thyroid right now. The first one is we have to look at what we need to avoid. First, and that is fish. Fish that is contaminated with mercury. Mercury disrupts the thyroid. And so if we ship fish that have mercury in them, you're lowering your thyroid. So not all fish is bad. Some of them we need to avoid though. And so I have a list here of poor fish choices that are high in mercury that you really, really need to avoid. Things like Arctic char, sea bass, catfish or Atlantic cod, things like halibut, Atlantic halibut that is, and orange roughy. There's a list here. Some tunas, not all, but some tunas. But really, you could Google high mercury fish and you'll get a whole laundry list of those. Now, let's look at a few of the better fish choices. Well, for sure, wild salmon. And that's pretty commonplace. So make sure if you're going and eating at a restaurant or you're buying salmon, make sure it's wild and not farmed. Tilapia is really, really good. Oysters, mussels, prawns. I had a bunch of those last night. It was so delicious. at the dinner we went to. It was so incredibly delicious. And I feel really, really good today. So it's healthy, healthy food. So we're going to eat more of these fish, and we're going to avoid the mercury fish, okay? So the second thing that we need to avoid are the goitrogenic foods, foods that actually disrupt thyroid. What they do is they block the ability for iodine to enter the thyroid for the thyroid to work properly, because the thyroid needs iodine to function. This will block that that connection. So we want to make sure that we know the goitrogenic foods, and if we're going to eat them, they must be cooked and not raw. What are they? Turnips, corn, cabbage, Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, broccoli, mustard greens, sweet potato, peanuts, pine nuts, and millet. So we're going to want to make sure that we break these down, cook them, ferment them, sprout them, anything to do with that, okay? Now, if you're somebody who loves to have raw veggies and you're like, oh my gosh, no, I love them raw. Well, you can actually soak them in oil and vinegar and leave them overnight in the fridge, and it will actually break down the goitrogenic components of those vegetables so that you can eat them the next day in a raw salad. So, woohoo! Okay, so what we're going to eat. We're going to eat more of the iodine and selenium-rich foods. Iodine-rich foods are in sea vegetables. Things like dulse and nori and wakame. These are really good. Kombu. I have kombu in my bean soups quite regularly. And then when it comes to selenium, your best food is the Brazil nuts. And all you actually need are 2 Brazil nuts every day to get your daily selenium dose. So eat Brazil nuts to get your selenium. Why not? Make sure you chew them really well. There's other foods, but those are the primary ones. And again, if anyone here wants a list, then let me know. I'm here for you. Okay, so the fourth thing we're going to do to support thyroid is we must detoxify. If we miss this piece, you'll get disappointing results. Again, we are now in a world that is toxic, and we can't, miss the elephant in the room. It's a toxic world. And as long as you know that and you're prepared to, change maybe some of the skincare products you're using or hair care products or cleaning products, and maybe change your diet slightly, you're off to the races. But really, if we don't, then things start to slow down, and so do you. So I know for me, we have all natural cleaning products in our home here in Mexico. When I eat foods and I buy them, they're organic, or I find out where they're sourced to the best that I can. I eat as much organic and local produce as I possibly can. The cleaning products that I use, like I said, are natural. I only use coconut oil on my skin. Everything is so simple. Anything I put on my skin would be something that I could pretty much eat, okay? Because that's really what you're doing when you're putting it on your skin. So we want to we want to eliminate these toxins as much as possible. The other thing is you're going to want to make sure you're doing an active detox. And so the kind of detoxification programs that I do, they're not the typical take this supplement for 3 weeks and you're good to go. No, we need to actually go in the cell to get the cell well, not outside the cell like these detox programs that are like 3 weeks. No, they're not going to do anything for you. It'll give you a false sense of comfort. No, it's not going to. What we're going to do is we're going to make sure that we go in the cell. And how do you do that? Homeopathics are perfect for that. So these are the kind of homeopathics that I use, and they're called complex homeopathics. So I'm trained in a specialized form of detox that allows the cell to remove the toxins from in the cell, out the cell, and then out the body. And then the cell can actually reset itself. Now you're actually really detoxifying and getting the toxins out of the body instead of doing other things like recirculating the back end. Which would be worse off than if you just started. So this actually gets it out of the body and you feel good on it. If you're on a detoxification program and you feel crappy, you're on the wrong one. That means that you're actually recirculating the toxins back in. And what the problem is, they could lodge into your brain, and now you've got some real brain problems. And so we really need to get away from that. We need to get into some proper ways. And again, this is what I do. So because we need to do this to get our bodies back healthy again. So you can reach out to me and I'm happy to help there. Okay. So the other thing we're going to want to think about is doing something for yourself every day. And the reason why I say that is for anyone with an underactive thyroid, the emotional component that's tied to that is, when is it going to be my turn? When's it going to be my turn? It's like you're giving to everybody else, but you're not giving to yourself. And there's this sense of resentment and resentment. And you don't want to hold on to that, because that's actually not fair to you. Like, don't you think you're important? Of course you're important. We're all important. We're all one, and we can all work together. But when you take care of yourself, you're actually taking care of others too, because you are your best. And then you're the best role model. You're the best to be around. You're going to find you'll have closer connections. You'll be able to connect with them better, really. So when you take care of yourself, you can take care of others too. But don't forget about yourself, especially with thyroid. That is usually an issue. So make sure you do that. Some ideas would be getting some exercise in. It's not a waste of time. No, it's actually, we're meant to move. We're human beings. Like, think of puppies or animals. They are meant to move and they sleep. So we're the same. We're from nature. We're meant to move and we're meant to rest. But we also need to move. We can't just keep our bodies sitting or watching the screen, or, are you outside moving? That is so, so important. And the movement that you're doing is important. We don't want to do movement that stresses the body. Again, adrenals, thyroid. Why is the thyroid underactive? Maybe because the adrenals are underfunctioning. Maybe because you're doing chronic cardio. Maybe because you think you can go for a run and negate the cake that you had last night. It doesn't work that way at all. And I'm a big component of resistance training. Why? Because we're meant to build muscle. Because as we age, we lose muscle, and that's your metabolic engine. So your exercise plan needs to include resistance training or anything that can build muscle. If not, you will get very disappointing results. And I'm saying this out of love, because the programs I put together work really, really well. It's just, you got to do the right things. Okay. I don't want to see you suffer. This is easy to do if you know what you're doing. And this is exactly what I can help you with. But just think about, we need to get into some really enjoyable resistance training. Okay. We also need to think about getting into a regular routine, a regular daily routine. That puts your body into circadian rhythm. You've probably heard of circadian rhythm. So important, because your hormones are all based on circadian rhythm. Thyroid's a hormone, right? It produces hormones, and T4, T3. And we want to make sure that they're released at the right time. And so, but you need a regular routine. So you get up, sunrise, you get outside, and sunset, you wind down, right? So sunrise, you get up, you do your thing. Sunset, you start to slow things down. Sunrise, sunset, you work with the natural rhythms of nature. And that's how you get results that are lasting, because you're working with the body instead of against it. Again, my clients get a daily routine. And in schedules, you have freedom. Freedom is in schedules. You know what to do and when. There's no guesswork. And you're working with your body. Okay? Hopefully I've explained that enough. The other thing is, we need to avoid fluoride, chlorine, or bromine. Those three will they will really lower the thyroid. Okay, so the thyroid does not like those three chemicals. Fluoride is a chemical. We're not meant to put fluoride into our toothpaste. It's fluorine. Fluorine is a natural element. Fluoride is a chemical. It's different. So if you have fluoridated toothpaste, we're going to get rid of that. We're going to have non-fluoridated toothpaste. Chlorine, get shower filters to avoid the chlorine. Never drink tap water. Make sure that it's clean water. And bromine is in bread. So make sure that it's not bread that it rises like to be big and fluffy. We don't want that kind of bread. The kind of bread we want is sourdough bread. Okay, that's another conversation, but really that's the plans that I put together, are these kind of healthy, delicious foods that will actually support the thyroid and get you up and running again, and healthy and happy. If you have amalgam fillings, that's the silver fillings, and you've been thinking about taking them out, I would caution. There's a conversation that needs to revolve around that, because we can't just take these out and think you're okay. Not at all, because if you do, you're going to put the mercury, which is the the silver toxic chemical into the body. It's a heavy metal, and it will actually shut your thyroid down pretty quickly. And it also leads to Mad Hatter's disease, where you don't feel yourself. So if anyone here has amalgam fillings, or they've just had them removed, please reach out to me. I'm happy to have a conversation and help you get past that, so that you are safe, okay, and that the thyroid is healthy as well. Now we're going to get into, see, I've talked about the eight key adjustments that we need to make to have a healthy thyroid. So the first one is we want to avoid the high mercury fish. We want to eat the fish that are low mercury. Second thing is we want to avoid the goitrogenic foods that are raw. We want to cook them, okay? The third one is eat iodine and selenium-rich foods. We've gone through those. The fourth one is we need to detoxify, because that is like a missing piece to most programs. And make sure you feel good on a detoxification program, not bad, because you should feel really, really good on them. Do something for yourself every day, and that should hopefully include some exercise, that is resistance training or a walk in nature. Get that established regular routine so that you can have proper circadian rhythm and your hormones are in balance. Avoid fluoridated toothpaste or tap water. Think about the mercury amalgam fillings and have a conversation with me or someone else that is in the know about how to safely remove them, or to remove them at all. Now we're going to get into some supplements. So this is supplementing a good diet. So let's get the diet worked out. Let's get the lifestyle worked out. And then if you want to add these supplements, they will really, really help you. The first one is we want to make sure we have a good digestive enzyme. Not any digestive enzyme. There are so many crappy ones. If you're just taking plant enzymes, I'm sorry, that's not going to do it. We need to get a full, complete digestive enzyme formula, which includes hydrochloric acid, lipase, protease, all the enzymes to break down all your foods, not just plant enzymes. Okay, so just a thought. We're also going to look at supporting it's an adaptogen. It helps you adapt to your days so that your blood sugar stays stable, your mood stays stable, and we want to make sure that we are in healthy rhythm. And that's what ashwagandha does. Ashwagandha is an incredible herb that really helps to improve general vitality and helps you physically and emotionally feel really, really good. We can also look at some support for your adrenals, and I love Adrenal Men. It actually helps mend the adrenals. What happens is we want to make sure that we take a really good glandular, it's like a custom meal to the adrenals, so they can rebuild quicker, faster, and that's what Adrenal Mend can do for you. And then lastly, we want to look at Thyroid Mend. So Thyroid Mend's amazing. It mends the thyroid. Again, this would be in conjunction with a healthy diet, healthy lifestyle, but this would be really, really helpful to help you get the thyroid up and running again, and you as well. Now, what would you expect to feel if the thyroid is all feel healthy and normal and you're healed? Well, the first thing you're going to look at and feel is your weight will just start to melt off. Because remember, the thyroid is responsible for the metabolism. So you get into that healthy, beautiful shape that you've always wanted. Okay, that's the first thing. Second thing is you'll have a better mood. The mood will improve because everything in the body is working properly, okay? You will also have regular bowel movements, okay? Instead of feeling constipated, you will have that, and your skin will start to feel soft, and your hair will start to grow back. All these, you'll look younger, okay? So that's what you would expect when your thyroid is starting to function better. Well, that was a big talk, 40 minutes. I am going to stop this share. And I'm going to go back to my screen here. Just one moment. I have to go here. Give me a sec. Okay. So I did go through step 1 out of my 9-step program that will help you actually reach your ideal weight in 90 days or less without starving or stressing or any BS diets. Like, honestly, we've got to eat in a way that's going to support your body. Okay. And so if this was really helpful for you and you're looking for more direction, you're looking for some accountability, you're looking for a program that's actually customized to you, then I highly, highly, highly recommend that you book a call. and we can start with a conversation, and I can find out a little bit more about you and kind of what your goals are and what you're doing now to find your missing piece. And if it feels that we can work together, if it feels right that we can work together, then I'm happy to add you into my program, which is it's actually called Fit and Healthy Forever now. It was the Slim, Strong, and Sexy. Now I'm including males into the program because males have been doing so well over these 20 years that I thought, well, I don't want to just help females anymore. I want to help males. In fact, I have a lot of partners that join together. A lot of couples join together, and kids as well. They can join. But really, it starts with a conversation to see if it's right for you. So please make sure that you send me a direct message and we can start the conversation from there. So I want to thank you so much for joining today. And I want to make sure that you join me next week. And next week, we're going to talk a little bit about blood sugar issues. So it's called hypoglycemia. And so how we're going to actually stabilize that blood sugar so that you can actually look and feel your best. And then you won't have those blood sugar swings where you feel like you're tied to the fridge all the time, or you've lost your brain power for a bit and you can't be present with your family or your career. We're going to make sure that that blood sugar is stable. And if you do, again, this is all so important for weight loss, to be able to lose the weight and keep it off for life. Who wants to lose it and keep bringing it back? No. This is a lifetime thing. When you learn these principles, it is freedom. You feel amazing, you look amazing, and this sticks for life, okay? So thank you very much for joining, and we'll see you next week. Again, if you have any questions, please send me a comment below, and we will get the conversation started. Have a great day.